In labor markets, there's just two diagrams which I want you to know. So the first one is nice and simple. It's just a minimum wage diagram. So we have wage instead of price, and we have quantity of labor instead of quantity. We have a downward sloping demand curve, DL, and an upward sloping supply curve, SL, and then an equilibrium quantity of workers, Q1, and an equilibrium wage, W1. So nothing fancy there. What we could do is we might need to show a minimum wage. So all that would happen is you'd put a line anywhere above equilibrium and call it minimum wage. And that would be your new wage, W2, but your quantity would fall to Q2. So this would be your excess supply of labor, or in other words, your unemployment. Because there are this many people who Q3 people who want to work, but only Q2 people who can work. So that's a pretty simple one, but still a useful one to use. Now, the next one is the monopsony one. In order to draw a monopsony diagram, again, we have wage and quantity. Try to remember the steps. It just helps you to remember how to do the diagram rather than memorizing the end product. So it starts off similar. We still have our supply curve and our demand curve to begin with. So we have S, but we can call our supply our average cost and our demand our MRP curve. MRP means marginal revenue product. We can talk more about that afterwards. But you demand workers based on their MRP, the value that they bring. And you workers are supplied, and however much workers are supplied, that's the average cost, how much you have to pay to hire them. And in normal microeconomics, in market structures, we learned that MR is twice as steep as AR. So like in your market structures diagram, you have AR and you have MR like this. So kind of similar, we have AC and MC. Okay. Now,
So MC is twice as steep.
basically like uh basically twice as steep. Yeah, that's the easiest way to remember it.
Okay, cool.
Roughly twice as steep. So in market structures again, monopolies, for example, would profit maximize and they'll go for the quantity where MC equals MR. So kind of similar again, monopsony firms are gonna hire at the point where MC equals MRP instead. And that's this quantity over here. Remember, that's just the quantity. It doesn't tell us the wage. The wage is if you go down to the supply curve, because at that quantity, that's how many workers are going to supply their labor. So they are able to just pay them only that much. Okay. So what is a monopsony? A monopsony is a
Um,
sole buyer or sole employer of labor. And they would profit maximize and hire at the point Q1. So they underemploy and they underpay. This diagram is useful if we are trying to show the impact of a minimum wage because, and the impact is different to in a free market because this quantity here is the equilibrium quantity. Okay. So I could put a minimum wage anywhere up to there and it would not cause unemployment, which was the main disadvantage in a free market. So I could set my minimum wage, say, here. I could do that anywhere as long as it's up to here. Okay, anywhere up to there. It could even be here. So just to illustrate, I'm going to pick just somewhere over here. What now happens is my supply curve becomes this line. The reason for that, the definition of supply is the number of workers who are willing and able to work at any given wage. So after that wage, say this is £10, say this is £12. At £13, £14, £15, £100, the same number of workers are willing and able to work. But up to £12, nobody's going to work for less now, and nobody can work for less because of the minimum wage. So now the supply curve becomes all kinked. But you can just remember the minimum wage. After that, it goes back to normal. The marginal cost is even weirder. It becomes this blue line.
Yeah, I remember this.
Now, the reason for this is at £12, marginal means, so in general, marginal means the next unit. So at £12, if I want to hire one worker, the marginal cost of that worker is £12. If I want to hire another worker, it's going to cost me an extra £12 and another, an extra £12 and another, an extra £12. Suppose I've got 100 workers. If I wanted to hire another worker, I might have to pay them £13. But the issue is that if I pay the 101st worker £13, I have to pay everybody else £13 as well because I can't pay some people £12 and some people £13 for the same exact job. You don't have to remember that, but it's just in case you get confused or you need a reason to remember the way the curve looks. So that's the reason why it jumps up because you have to pay everybody that £13. I'm going to rub the numbers out because that was just for understanding. So what happens is the new quantity becomes, we have to look for where MC equals MR again. MC equals MR over here, right? Wait, yeah, over there. So I could just go down and that will be my new quantity. And then looking along the supply curve, that would be my new wage. W2. Okay. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that?
I think I got it.